Yo, 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 yo. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to the freedom marchers, freedom family, freedom lovers, and freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorilla is here, hitting y'all upside the head with this morning paper so you guys can have the information you need to determine how important freedom is to y'all. I am here for that purpose, to serve that purpose. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, hope you guys having a good day. It is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, and we all the way live in this piece. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? It's nice and rainy. We got a lot of rain going on right now. Hope you guys are having a good one. Yeah. Let me tell y'all, man. Operation Freedom Snatch is live in effect. And Donald Trump is spearheading the objective. He is not the master, just so y'all know. And make sure y'all, when y'all get in here, y'all hit the like button, please. Make sure y'all hit the like button. You know what I'm saying? We got to do our best to spread the message of freedom. And in order to do that, we got to let people know why we need to get this freedom to combat the tyranny. Salute to that boy, Brother Shelton, in the building. Yes. You will vote for Donald Trump. Yeah, man. Donald Trump wilding right now, y'all. But it's not just Donald Trump, is it? It's his masters, right? It's his masters. It's the elite class, billionaires, millionaires, the corporate welfare recipients, right? The bankers, the special interest groups that really are truly represented by this, our so-called representatives, by this government. They act on their behalf. And what they want is complete and total control of the masses. Yeah, Israel, Benjamin Nosferatu and them are definitely part of that elite master class that is pulling the strings within our government. And the assassination of Charlie Kirk is working out beautifully for them on many fronts, because they're able to use the left versus right paradigm line, because they are able to use the race division. They are going to push through tyrannical action, tyrannical policy in the name of Charlie Kirk, and they know that the right base, right, the right wingers, the conservative base, the Republicans, they're just going to accept it because, well, because of the language in this order, they think, well, we're safe. Salute to Coach Hudson in the building. Salute to him. Salute to Jalea Dean. Make sure Brother Shelton and Coach Hudson, y'all drop your links, man. Y'all go check these guys out. World is on fire. Would you like it to keep burning? No. Here's the problem, though. Salute to Black Spring with Autumn in the building. Make sure you drop your link as well. Yeah. Donald Trump. Your boy Donald Trump is coming for our freedoms with a pre-crime Minority Report style legislative action. It's not really legislative action. It's an order. It's an executive order, essentially. And what they're going to do, yes, racism against the white Christian. They're using specific language to convince you, and this is specifically to the conservatives and the Republicans out there, that believe that Donald Trump is for them. They're going to use this They're going to use specific language to get you guys on board. And what essentially it's going to do is they're going to try to come after people that just speak out, right? That speak out against what they believe might be white supremacy, who speak out against government, who criticize government, who criticize one side, right? You're not going to be able to criticize Christianity, or not even Christianity. You're not going to be able to criticize Christian groups. You're not going to be able to criticize Israel. You're not going to be able to criticize the government, because they're going to say, well, if you do that, they're going to consider you part of a terrorist group or a terrorist yourself. And then they're going to be able to come after you, right, before you commit a crime. Yeah. They're going to use your language against you to say, oh, well, we got to go snatch you up. We got to detain you to prevent you from committing crime in the future. Salute to Realize in the building. Salute to you, Queen. Now, I hope you guys understand that Joe Biden put out a similar type of order, but it used different language. And it wasn't as in-depth. It wasn't as specific, right? You know, that's when they came out with the white. Listen, they used it against the right. But every time they do these different things, they add more language. I don't know if you guys remember, I talked about how Joe Biden issued an order to the military, right? I talked about this before during the Rucking Live last year when Joe Biden was still president. Oh, what's going on now? God damn it. When Joe Biden was president, he put out an order where if you, where the military can get involved in stopping protests and stopping civil disobedience, right? And that they would be able to use lethal force if they so chose. So understand that Donald Trump was not the first one to use the military against civilians right here in the United States. Joe Biden did it as well during his term with his order that said that the military intelligence can become involved with local law enforcement to stop civil disobedience and use lethal force if necessary. I talked about that. I talked about that last year. So you guys think that, oh, it's one side and not the other. No, it's both sides. Each administration, they do more and more and more to add to the tyranny, to add to the control, right? To take more freedoms from you. And you guys think that, well, it's because Joe Biden is on the left and we ain't got to worry about it. And now that Donald Trump is doing it, well, I'm on the right. I ain't got to worry about it. No, they're just going to add on to it. So Donald Trump is going after people that are anti-Christian, anti-white supremacy, anti-establishment, anti-government if you speak out. So that means that y'all know me. What do I do on a daily basis? I bring you guys information, right? I bring you guys information. I bring you guys action from these government controllers to convince you that we don't need government. To convince you that not only do we not need government, but that government is detrimental to the human race every day. So they could consider me anti-government and come after me just for telling y'all that they're coming after your freedoms. And Charlie Kirk's death served as a pivotal point in their objectives, right? Because they have convinced you that Charlie Kirk was deleted because, right? Because, you know, he said things, and so you know, these leftist groups or these trannies or any people like that, they're going after a good Christian man. They killed a good Christian man because they're anti-Christian, right? And then you had that church, the Mormon church. I forgot what state it was in. That Mormon church that was rammed into by that vehicle, and the guy shot some people, and the building got set on fire, and it collapsed. All these different things. Well, here you go. An attack on a Christian establishment. An attack on on Christian values. And that's in this order. That if you speak out against Christian values, right? Well, what does the First Amendment talk about? It talks about essentially a separation of church and state, right? Let's say you're a Muslim. But now you're a Muslim, well, they can consider you anti-Christian because you're in a mosque and you're talking about and you're pushing to Islam. They can consider that, you are an Orthodox Muslim and you go to this mosque. They could use that to say that you're anti-Christian, and they can come after you. If you criticize the Jewish establishment, they can come after you. This is what is going on, and this is what I have been telling you guys for years. I have been telling y'all it doesn't matter left or right. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter. What matters is these corporations, these bankers, these special interest groups, these APAC, the World Economic Forum with, George Soros, these guys, George Soros, Bill Gates. Who's that guy that's the head of the World Economic Forum? That guy. The you'll own nothing and be happy guy. Right? They get together every year, and they get together and they have these summits where they're trying to determine how the world is going to operate. These non-governmental organizations that are ran by billionaires that fly around on jets, that eat all the fancy cuisine, that eat all the red meat, they eat all the, they eat meat. They eat all the fancy fruits and all that, but they don't want you to eat meat. They want you to eat sawdust and bug juice. They want you to drink roach milk. These are the individuals that are running the country. These are running the world. Bill Gates. Bill Gates ain't no goddamn doctor. He's not a scientist, but he's running around telling us how we should combat disease. He's put money into vaccines. He put money into these treatments. He has used Africa as a testing ground for his weaponry. He has, basically as a result of what he's done in Africa, you have whole groups of people that are sterilized, that have been killed because of the actions of these elitists, these people that really run shit, that influence our government with their wealth, their influence, and this has been embedded into our nation's governmental operations. If you guys don't believe it, you guys can look all this shit up. During the COVID-19 pandemic, they made out like fat cats. Big Pharma, right? They really made out. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson got paid trillions of dollars. These are the people that really run the world, that really run this country. And right now, they do not want a resistant population. They don't want a population that thinks critically. They don't want a population that wants to be free. They want a population that is reliant on government. They want a population that will lose sight of what's important, which are their children, because they want your children. Make no mistake about it. They want access to your children in many different ways, mentally, physically. They want access to your children. And these presidents that they put in place, right? These legislators, these representatives, these judges, they all act on their behalf in some form or fashion. The private prisons, well, they work with the justice system to enrich themselves, right? That's what they do. That's why we get all these laws. We get all these laws that may seem like, well, this is kind of a ridiculous law. You know, the 94 crime bill that really just enriched, man, that, wow. What great things that did for, you know, for the private prison industry, right? The private prison industry was enriched by the 94 crime bill because they were able to say, you know what? We're going to fill these prisons. We're going to do these mandatory minimums for bullshit offenses, right? That really, I mean, victimless crimes. This is what they do. And now what they're going to do is they're going to use your language to do the same thing. They're going to use your speech against you, right? They're going to detain you. They're going to lock you up. They're going to inconvenience you. They're going to take your weapons. They're going to put you through psychological evaluations. They're going to hold you indefinitely. Did you guys know earlier this year, Donald Trump was looking into suspending habeas corpus? Because it was done before. Do you guys know who suspended habeas corpus before? And do you know what habeas corpus is? Habeas corpus protects you. It's in the Constitution. And this is why I say, well, the Constitution, they wipe their ass with the Constitution. The Constitution is a paper tiger to the government, just so y'all know. But there is something in there called habeas corpus that protects you from unlawful detention, right? Meaning they can't detain you for an indefinite amount of time without reasonable cause, without charging you, you know, without being able to tell you what crime they believe you commit or whatever. No, because it's not a crime to speak out against the government, is it? It's not a crime to speak out against the government. You're protected. You can speak out. You can criticize the government. You can criticize politicians. You can criticize Christian organizations. You can criticize Israel. There's no law against that, right? So they can't hold you for that. Well, in order for this to work, they have to suspend habeas corpus. That's what Abraham Lincoln did. To lock down and lock up people, leaders in the South that wanted to secede and all that stuff, and they were trying to push the message of secession and all this stuff. For whatever reason they wanted to do it, we know, because they wanted to keep the goddamn slaves, right? Well, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus to lock up people that spoke out against him, that spoke out against the Union. Whether you think it was for good reason or not, shouldn't have been done, right? Well, Donald Trump earlier this year was trying to figure out a way to suspend habeas corpus so that he could do the same thing, right? And of course, obviously his base his supporters are not going to speak out against it. Because he's Donald Trump. Because they suffer from cult of personality disorder and cognitive dissonance. This is what we're dealing with, right? And so now that we have these so-called attacks against the right, against white folks, against Christians, and now that Charlie Kirk has been deleted, he has been able to gain momentum to achieve this agenda, to achieve what he wants to achieve with this order. And what are we going to do? Right? We're going to go back and forth. We're going to talk shit to each other. We're going to we're going to continue this divisive act, these divisive, useless, pointless attacks against each other, instead of looking at who we should be looking at. If you are a supporter of Donald Trump, but you are also, and you put freedom first, then you should be looking at Donald Trump and asking him, hey, yo, what the fuck is this about? You need to look at, people like Charlie Kirk, right? People like Charlie Kirk that are on the right. You should be looking at these talking heads, these content creators that are so in the pocket for Donald Trump. You should be looking at them and saying, yo, what the fuck is this? They have access to Donald Trump, right? They should be speaking out against this. Because Donald Trump is coming after people's freedoms. And yes, he's using language that may convince you that he's not talking about you. But that's not how this shit works. Everybody has the right to free speech. Everybody has the right to criticize the government. Everybody has a right to, exalt their religion. Everybody has a right to criticize religious organizations, right? It doesn't matter what that organization is. It doesn't matter who's the person criticizing. But you won't get that because most of these people, they're in the pocket with Donald Trump because, well, they get funding from the same corporations, from the same PACs, from the same special interest groups that fund our legislators, that fund maybe not Donald Trump, because Donald Trump already got bread, right? The bankers, the corporations, these people. These are the individuals that come to you and you look up to them because, look, they speak well, they say all the right things, they push the message of freedom, right? They do that so much that what do the liberals call them? They call them free dumb, right? They say free dumb, they change it to free dumb and put y'all know what I'm talking about. But you also talk about law and order. They have convinced you that law and order and freedom can exist in the same space at the same time. And when I say law and order, I'm talking about man-made law. Man-made law, right? Edicts and directives coming from the elite class to affect the proletariat class, but it doesn't affect them. They want you to believe that you can have freedom and government control at the same time. These are the people that you guys follow. Are they speaking out against Donald Trump doing this shit? No, they're not. They're going to justify it. They're going to say it's necessary because they're going to look at what happened at that church. They're going to look at what happened to Charlie Kirk. They're going to look at what happened, this attack, that attack, this attack, that attack. And they're going to say, we need this. This is a good thing. It's good that Jimmy Kimmel got suspended, that his show got suspended. It's good that these people are getting fired for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. It's a good thing. This is what they have convinced you guys. And so they won't give any pushback. The Brandon Tatums, the Anthony Bryan Logans, the Tim Pools, the Ben Shapiro's and all these guys. They're not going to talk about that. No, they're going to continue to lift Donald Trump up. They're going to continue to raise him on high and say, this is your master. He's doing what he needs to do. Because you guys are convinced that the only people that need to be protected are Christians, conservatives, and all that shit. Oh, we're under attack. Well, wasn't it a few years ago where they were demonizing white conservatives and white men? What did they say? They said the most dangerous individual in the country is a white man, a white Republican extremist. That's what they said. They came after y'all during the Biden administration, did they not? Y'all didn't like that. Look at what happened in Buffalo. That was during the Biden administration. Look at who gets killed in these mass situations during which administration? During a Democratic demonstration or administration, there are attacks against leftists and black people. During conservative presidents' administrations, well, who gets attacked? Think about who gets attacked, who falls victim to these attacks during which administration. And each administration, they strip you of more of your rights. And you aren't aware of it because you're not immediately affected by it. So you think that, well, this guy's on my side. Donald Trump is for me. Who cares about a Negro and an LMNOP community motherfucker? Fuck them. Well, guess what? When he pushes this through, right, and they create legislation, and they pass laws, and they add amendments and all these different things, or they repeal amendments, when they start doing that shit, you think it's just going to affect you? It won't just affect you. It's going to affect everyone. Everyone is going to fall victim to government tyranny. We already all are victims to government tyranny. It's just going to get ramped up. It's going to become amplified. You're going to be, by the time you figure out that you are under government tyranny, well, you're going to be under martial law. Right? You know, they're talking about sending the military to Oregon. Right? I think it was Oregon. You're going to see troops marching up and down your street. And by the time you realize what's going on, well, you're going to be unarmed. There are going to be a lot of people detained and held indefinitely for suspicion of terrorism. Listen, they already did this. This is nothing new. The Patriot Act gives them the ability to do this. If you guys didn't know. All they got to do is say, look, this group is a terrorist organization, that group is a terrorist organization, and they can come snatch your ass up. Oh, y'all didn't know that? The Patriot Act gives them that ability. And y'all thought that was just going to affect Muslims, didn't you? Ooh-wee. Oh, man, y'all fell for the okie doke. Y'all thought the Patriot Act was just going to be about locking Muslims up in Guantanamo Bay indefinitely, being rendition to other countries, to black sites. Y'all thought that was just going to be about the Muslims, the Arabs. Y'all thought that was going to be it. Well, we fell under surveillance, didn't we not? Yeah, they started spying on their own people. Yeah, Edward Snowden told y'all about that. And they still after his ass. Yeah. Because they started surveilling United States citizens so that if they come across keywords, they can spy on them even more. They can ramp up the spy shit. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, y'all. Y'all think this is a fucking game? Y'all think this is just about wackadoo leftists? Y'all think this is just about that? If you criticize the government, they're going to try to come after your ass. And it's not going to stop with the Trump administration, y'all. Each administration is going to get worse and worse. They have an agenda. They got a plan. They got to get shit done. Let me see what y'all talking about. Hold on, y'all. I gotta take my oldest daughter to school. Hold on, you guys gotta give me a second. But yeah, this is what's gonna happen. Let me tell you what's gonna happen. I don't know. Back in the day, a few years ago, I went over the TAPS Act. That was a piece of legislation they were trying to pass. That was essentially what I'm talking to you guys about now. Except it didn't just apply to specific groups. It applied to anybody that had a voice that could speak out on social media. If you said something that they feel might point you toward extremism, they can come snatch you up. They can put you on a psychological evaluation. They can take your tools. All without committing a crime. It was a pre-crime bill that they were trying to push through. They got a lot of backlash for it, and it never went anywhere. And I told y'all back then that they were going to continue to try to do this type of thing. Right? Hold on, guys. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm back. Hold on. So, listen, y'all. This is what they're doing. Until you threaten harm, that is what's happening. How are you Christian behave black people? That's a great question. I have no idea. Let's see. Oh, someone dropped the super chat. Thank you for the $2.99, y'all. Benny the Max Journey says, I love Asian women. Good for you, man. Hey, that's what's up. River Crab says, who the fuck is we? I don't know. You figure it out. We all want to live in peace. So listen, y'all. I want you guys to understand this, man, because it's very important. Because we all deserve to be free and sovereign individuals. We have to call this shit out. You know what I'm saying? And right now, I'm about to go over some. So, yeah, I understand the fear. I understand the fear, but we have to think about what we're doing here. We got to think about what they're. We got to think about why they're doing this, right? Because they knew that the attack. They knew it was going to happen, right? Eventually you found out that they knew something about that was going to happen. That they didn't do anything. Now, I believe that 9/11 was an outside job with inside help. But that's another video. That's another live stream for another day. So, just think about that. Now, let's go into this. Let's look at some of this language, man, because it's pretty wild that, you know, now this is this is crazy. Now this is a presidential action, right? This is the National Security Presidential Memorandum, okay? The NSPM 7, National Security Presidential Memorandum. So this is not a piece of legislation, y'all. This is an action. This is a presidential action that he's able to do because of the Patriot Act. Just so y'all understand. And make sure y'all let me know if you guys can read me loud and clear. Give me a Romeo, Lima, Charlie, please. All right. Let's see. What else did y'all say? Yeah, buy 1,000 people. Yeah, they disrupt my stream and shit. Yeah, it's all good. My sir, what does this mean for those working in the government? Should we go to Portugal? No, you should not go to Portugal. The idea is to resist, right? The idea is to resist. The idea is to organize, right? Organize, get in a position where you can be self-sufficient, self-sustainable. The idea is to spread the message of freedom, to let these people know what they're being subjected to so that they can wake up, right? Because tyrants can only tyrannize if the people allow them to, right? Tyrants can't tyrannize anybody without those individuals they want to tyrannize allow them to do it, right? If they just sit back and just accept the shit. Now, this is a presidential memorandum. All right. Now, section 1, it says, now this is section 1. Political violence Political violence. Imagine how broad in general that term is, how ambiguous. Now the subject is countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. By the authority vested in me as a president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. See, he's using existing laws to do this. So this is not a new piece of legislation, y'all. This is something that they're already been able to do. They add and take away shit as they see fit. To these memorandums. Now it says, and it specifically mentions Charlie Kirk, just so y'all know. When I said they're using the death of Charlie Kirk to do this, now it says heinous assassinations and other acts of political violence in the United States have dramatically increased in recent years. Even in the aftermath of the horrifying assassination of Charlie Kirk, some individuals who adhere to the alleged shooter's ideology What is the alleged shooter's ideology? He's a leftist, right? He's a furry. He has a tranny girlfriend, or whatever the fuck you want to call that thing. And he's part of some tranny terrorist cell, right? Where 20 people had pre-knowledge of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Yeah. That is the ideology. So you're talking about everything that you can think of on the left. And what did they try to do? They tried to blame the HBCUs, did they not? Didn't Donald Trump threaten to pull funding from the HBCUs? The same guy that y'all heralded and held up in esteem because he gave them unlimited funding. Well, those who giveth shall take away. But understand that we are the ones that giveth. Because they can't give shit without taking from us in the first fucking place. We got to understand that. We giveth. The government don't give a shit. They extract and they redistribute. That's one thing we got to understand as well. So Donald Trump did not give funding, unlimited funding, to the HBCUs. We did. Anyway, this was preceded. All right, now look, it says some individuals adhere to the ideology embraced and cheered this evil murder. Cheered this evil murder. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the people. They say celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. So if you cheered for Charlie Kirk's death and you celebrated, well, guess what? They're going to consider you a domestic terrorist just because you were maybe happy or you didn't give a fuck if he died, right? Why do we got to give a fuck every time somebody died? That means what? What was it? Do you think the AKK, do you think the KKK did not cheer when Martin Luther King died and Malcolm X? Help me understand this shit. Okay, this is what we're doing with this. This is what we're doing. Okay. Now, this evil, while actively encouraging more political violence, this was preceded by the 2024 assassination of senior healthcare executive and the 2022 assassination attempt against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Yes, some guy was waiting outside Brett Kavanaugh's house with tools of murder. He didn't touch Kavanaugh, but he was outside his house. He was stalking him. Now, this wasn't even during the Trump administration. This was during Biden's administration, right? Do you guys see the pattern here? It doesn't say anything about the lady in Minnesota, does it? The Democratic representative of Minnesota that was killed by a right-wing MAGA nut job? Oh, that's not in here, is it? What was it? See? Because, see, they're trying to tell you and convince you, oh, this is just about the people on the left. They're the nut jobs. They're the ones Trump is going after. Ooh, wee shoot. If only you knew what the real deal was. Well, I know the real deals. Yeah, I can recognize the motherfucking pattern. That's what I'm talking about it. Have the same logic when applied to the future doctors and lawyers. What are you talking about? We all need to stand up together and take our country back. What we need to do is stand up and take our sovereignty back, our sovereignty of self and our freedoms. That's what needs to happen. We need to stand up. You know what I'm saying? Now, and now let's go on down. Now it says riots in Los Angeles and Portland reflect more than 1,000% increase in attacks on U.S. immigration and custom enforcement. And then it talks about the shooting at the ICE facility in Dallas. Yeah. Do you see where they're leaning toward? Who they are painting as the terrorists during this administration, whereas the last administration, they were painting the right as a terrorist organization. Now, there are common recurrent motivations and indicia uniting this pattern of violent and terroristic activities under the umbrella of self-described anti-fascism. These movements portray fundamental American principles, right, as fascist. So if you say that someone is a fascist who calls themselves to have American values, then they're going to say that you're a domestic terrorist. Chandler Thomas says, not going to happen. We're too divided and focused on ourselves. Well, see, that's why guys like me, we come out and try to help you guys understand that this division has been perpetuated by our government rulers and the elite class that rule over them, that they represent. This is what they want. And I'm trying to help explain this. This is the point behind all this. Of course they cheered the side of Shakur's death. Of course they did. Of course they did. Of course they did. Kangar J says they're painting Antifa as terrorists even though they have no proof of involvement in Charlie. They have no involvement in Charlie's death. The psychological impact affects every demographic. Absolutely. Now, this anti-fascist lie has become the organizing rallying cry used by domestic terrorists to wage a violent assault against democratic institutions, constitutional rights, and fundamental American liberties. Common threads animating this violent conduct include anti-American, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity support for the overthrow of the government. Now, this is the most crucial part. Support for the overthrow of the United States government. Somebody in here said that we all need to stand up together and take our country back. They could see that as support for the overthrow of the government. And they can come after you for that. They can come after me, right, for calling this out and using that to add further evidence to the fact that the government ain't shit. And that dependency of the government is why we are in chains. Yes, it says common threads animating this violent conduct include anti-Americanism. What the fuck is that? What is Americanism? What is Americanism? Last I understood, America was a hodgepodge, a melting pot of multiple cultures. But now they're trying to make it very specific what American is. Anti-Christianity. Aren't there other religions? Again, isn't this supposed to be a land, a nation, where we have a hodgepodge, a melting pot of people who practice multiple religions? Aren't we allowed to have that? Isn't it laid out in the Constitution that the government cannot just be pushing one religion? Well, there goes the First Amendment out the window. All this shit right here, First Amendment right out the window. Anti-Christianity. Why not anti-Islamic? Why not anti... What the fuck are we talking about? Extremism on migration. What is extremism on migration? What is that? Race. Extremism on race and gender. and his hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. Who determines what American views on family is? Who determines what American views on religion is? Who determines what American values or American views on morality is? Who makes those determinations? The right? Donald Trump gets to make that determination? So are we to all become Christians? What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do now? Now, as described in the order of September 22, 2025, designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist group. Antifa has been designated as a domestic terrorist group. The KKK has not been designated as that, right? Neo-Nazi, the neo-Nazi group, the skinheads, they haven't been designated as that. The groups and entities that perpetuate this extremism have created a movement that embraces and elevates violence to achieve policy outcomes, including justifying additional assassinations. Justifying, not committing, justifying. So if you said, well, if you said that maybe if you believe that Charlie Kirk was killed because he said things about black people and trannies and this and that, well, they could consider that. If you say, well, he shouldn't have been saying that shit, that's probably why, hello. If you say that, that's not what I believe. I don't believe he was killed for those reasons. I think he was killed. Y'all know why I think he was killed. And make sure y'all hit the like button. What's up with that, y'all? Who determines freedom? The individual. Right? Not the government. The government can't determine freedom because at every turn they're trying to strip you of your freedoms. They don't give a fuck about freedom. Freedom says no. But the fundamental values of country was built on Christianity. So what? Freedom of religion ensures you the freedom to practice your religion free from persecution. Okay. You're not supposed to use it. Listen, the fundamental values of the Constitution in this country that you call it this country. Yeah, the country you're referring to is the country you're really referring to the centralization of power in the country. Yeah, the framing fathers, the founding fathers, the constitutionalists, the federalists that wrote the Federalist Papers to try to convince the leaders of the 13 colonies to concentrate power. That's your country. Your country is the central government. Yeah, because they were Christians, right? It was founded by Christians. But the idea was, well, you don't have to be a Christian. You can practice whatever religion you see fit. And the freedom of speech allows you to criticize religious groups that you feel may be pushing some bullshit. You should be allowed to do that. Now, investigating domestic terrorist organizations. The National Joint Terrorist Task Force and its local offices, right, shall coordinate and supervise a comprehensive national strategy to investigate, prosecute, and disrupt entities and individuals engaged in acts of political violence and intimidation designed to suppress lawful political activity or obstruct the rule of law. Right? Now, somewhere in here, it talks about stopping people from committing the violence before they commit the violence. That's pre-crime. This comprehensive strategy, law enforcement will disband and uproot networks, entities, and organizations that promote organized violence, violent intimidation, conspiracy against rights, and other efforts to disrupt the functioning of domestic society. That's what they want to do. That's what they're calling themselves wanting to do. Now, hold on. Trying to get to where it talks about the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service shall take action to ensure that no tax-exempt entities are directly or indirectly financing political violence and domestic terrorism. In addition, where applicable, the Commissioner shall ensure that the Internal Revenue Service refers such organizations and employees and officers. So they're going to send the IRS after you if they feel that you're funding these domestic terror groups. Now, I'm trying, like I said, Department of Justice designation. In the course and of the result of and as a result of the investigation, the Attorney General may recommend that any group or entity whose members are engaged in activities meeting the definition of domestic terrorism merits a designation as a domestic terrorist organization. The Attorney General shall submit a list of any such groups or entities to the President through the Assistant to the President and the Homeland Security Advisor. So this what they're doing is they're going to identify who they feel are part of terrorist organizations. This entire Epstein thing has left the worst taste in my mouth. Yes. Why? They're not going to release the Epstein files, just so y'all know. Kash Patel already told y'all that, Jeffrey Epstein didn't supply any children to anybody. Like he didn't do that. Yeah, it was just him. Right. Okay. But Ghislaine Maxwell gave you all these names. They have names of these individuals. They just, they're trying to put an end to, they want y'all to shut y'all up. This is one way of them distracted from that. I'm looking for where it talks about, damn it. Man. Can intervene in the criminal. Through this cooperation, law enforcement will disband. Okay, I talked about that. Non-governmental organizations, American citizens residing abroad or with close ties to foreign governments, agents, citizens, foundations, or influence networks engaged in violations or money laundering by funding, creating, or supporting entities that engage in activities. Yeah, they going after everything, y'all. They going after everything. Okay. Here we go. The Attorney General shall issue specific guidance that ensures domestic terrorist priorities include politically motivated terrorist acts, such as organized doxing campaigns, swatting, rioting, looting, trespass, assault, destruction of property, terror, threats of violence, and civil disorder. Now, the guidance shall also include an identification of any behaviors, fact patterns, recurrent motivations, or other indicia common to organizations and entities that coordinate these acts in order to direct efforts to identify and prevent violent activity. Yeah, they're going to go after you if you display any behaviors, fact patterns, recurrent motivations, or other indicia. What is this other indicia? Common to organizations and entities that coordinate these attacks. Right? To direct efforts. What efforts? Direct what efforts? To identify and prevent. How are they going to prevent the potential violent activity? How are they going to prevent it? If the group, the organization, the individual if they have these certain patterns or certain indicators. Well, what are those going to be? Who's going to determine that? Right? Well, the illustrious government and their agents are going to determine that, and you're not going to know what those indicators are. You're not going to know what those patterns are. Right? Now, it says, acting through terrorism and financial intelligence office, examine financial flows and coordinate with partner agencies to trace illicit fund streams. Now, it says also, all federal law enforcement agencies with investigative authority shall question and interrogate within all lawful authorities. Now, understand that those lawful authorities include, now that we have that Patriot Act, yeah, think about the Patriot Act. Big Head Thought says that's a pretty insensitive title. A man was just killed for nothing more than debating and sharing an opinion, and that's the most American thing you can do. I don't understand how the title is insensitive, but if Charlie Kirk were alive, he would tell you to stand on your nuts and quit being sensitive. That's what he would tell you. Right? Because Charlie Kirk himself said that empathy was weak. Right? If you guys are going to use Charlie Kirk to try to shame people, well, y'all should be ashamed, because Charlie Kirk will be disappointed with y'all right now because you're being too goddamn sensitive. Stop being so motherfucking sensitive. Charlie Kirk said empathy was weak. Stop empathizing, motherfucker. Quit empathizing. Stand on your motherfucking nuts and listen to what the fuck I'm saying. You worried about the title? Well, I'm telling you, they coming after your motherfucking speech. No, he said it was a new age word, and he said that empathy was weak. Not only that, but Charlie Kirk supposedly believed in free speech, right? He would be appalled at all this bullshit, would he not? Of course they told him lies, Chandler. Of course. See, I got a good friend of mine. His name is Derek C. Williams. He has a channel. And we go back and forth on it. We don't agree, right? About, because he thinks, oh, well, if these people, right, the Brandon Tatums and the Ben Shapiros and those guys over there that talk all this shit about black folks 13 and 50% and all that bullshit with no context and no real data behind it, that they tell you that he thinks, oh, if they're telling the truth, then blah, blah, blah. Well, they're not telling the fucking truth. Derek C. Williams is very sharp. But when we get into it, hey, he knows what's up. Because, see, the title applies to what I'm talking about. In the very beginning of this here paper, the White House, this is the White House, countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In the very first paragraph, what does it talk about? He's using the death of Charlie Kirk. Now this was probably written before Charlie Kirk's death, and they just threw his ass in there. I'm not making this up. What does it say? Even in the aftermath of the horrifying assassination of Charlie Kirk, he's using Charlie Kirk's death to push a presidential memorandum using his executive power to go after free speech. If you don't think that's what he's doing, then I feel sorry for you. Because what does it say down here? The campaigns are coordinated and perpetrated by actors who have developed a comprehensive strategy to achieve policy goals through radicalization and violent intimidation. What does that even mean? Oh, here we go. We're using Charlie Kirk's death again. Oh, but the title's insensitive. Fuck out of here. Now, for example, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin engraved the bullets used in the murder with so-called anti-fascist rhetoric. Yeah. Yeah. And what was on the shell casing of one of the bullets they said the ICE agent killer used? Well, he didn't actually kill any ICE agents, did he? He killed detainees, but we're not going to get into that, are we? Now, we are talking about people who use language, right, that are common threads animating this violent conduct. Common threads, we're talking about communication. We're talking about speech. Common threads animating this violent conduct include anti-American, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government. And someone that was angry with would have F ICE. Yes, Kangar J, he literally tweeted, there's no hate speech. Yes, that's what Charlie Kirk said. He said ain't no hate speech. But what did Pam Bondi say? Because, mind you, Pam Bondi would not be saying this if Charlie Kirk weren't dead. This all this would not be what it is if Charlie Kirk had not been killed. She said there's free speech and there's hate speech. This has been the mantra from the motherfuckers on the right for years. Charlie Kirk dies. Pam Bondi tells you there's a difference. Charlie Kirk told you there was no difference. But they're going to use his death to push this bullshit. Yeah. What was it? Now, again, I mind you, this guidance shall also include identification. We're getting into speech here. We're getting into talking. Free speech. Behaviors, fact patterns, recurrent motivations, or other indicia common to organizations and entities that coordinate these acts in order to direct efforts to identify and prevent potential violent activity. So this is not just applying to people that actually commit the violence, but also to people they feel, because it's feelings. People they feel may commit violence in the future. Yeah. It says terrorism priorities include politically motivated terrorist acts, organized doxing campaigns, swatting, rioting, looting, trespass, assault, destruction of property. All these things are bad things. But here's the last part. Civil disorder. Well, what the fuck is civil disorder? Oh, because here it talks about swatting, rioting, looting. Okay, destruction of property, assault, trespass. What is civil disorder? What is that? This is what's going on, y'all. Yeah. So, this is what we got going on, y'all. The summer of love is civil disorder. Anything they feel is civil disorder, civil disorder. Anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. If they don't like what you said, this is what can happen. Well, it says riots. It already mentions riots. It says riots. I told you guys. It talks about riots right here. It mentions riots. It mentions looting. It mentions that. And then it also mentions civil disorder. It talks about that. It talks about riots. It talks about looting. In that same sentence. At the end, it says civil disorder. Right here, it says rioting, looting, trespass, assault, destruction of property, threats of violence, and civil disorder. See that? So if civil disorder is rioting, looting, trespass, assault, and destruction of property, then why are we naming civil disorder here? Yes, NSPM 7. Oh, it's more than a gray area. It's a gray area definitely, because they'll be able to, they'll say civil disorder is what it is. There is no peaceful riot, Desiree Oliver. Salute to my beautiful Desiree Oliver in the building. Salute to you, Queen. Good morning to you. There is no civil disorder. I mean, there is no peaceful riot. That's not a thing. Yes, civil disorder could mean a whole lot of things. It lists all that shit right here. And then it says civil disorder at the end. So, like, what the fuck is that? Yes, there is peaceful protest. And civil disobedience is good as well. See, now, that is what they're going to say civil disorder is. Civil disobedience, which you have the right. You have a right to civil disobedience, right? You have a right to not comply. And who determines what disorder is? Who knows? No, there's no peaceful riot. Once you start rioting, that's not. Rioting is destruction. Rioting is when you start doing, you know what I'm saying, destruction of property, looting, damaging, trespass. That's not peaceful at all. But they're not just going after people who do that. They're going after people who create civil disorder. What the fuck is that? Should you give them a hug or tell them it's okay? Sambo Jones, what are you talking about? Yes, protesting is different. Protesting is you got picket signs, you're yelling things, you're telling the government to stop doing what they're doing. They're not going to fucking listen. Protesting is a waste of time, by the way. Destruction, well, that falls under the looting, rioting, destruction of property. Those things are listed. What is civil disorder? You guys are trying to find a definition that is not going to align with the definition they have. But they didn't give us the definition of civil disorder. Yes, they're purposely mincing words. We're going to throw civil disobedience in here. That could mean anything. But do you guys understand that you have to get permits in many cases to protest? You got to get permission slips to protest on public property that you pay taxes for. You pay taxes for that property, but it's public. If it's public, that means that you're a part owner. Do you guys know that? As taxpayers, as extortion cattle, extortion victims, you guys we are all owners of what our taxes go towards, right? But you'll never know it the way they treat us. Yes, it can mean anything. Protesting, see the way we protest in the United States, what they're doing in the UK is not protesting, right? They are revolting, right? they are actually doing things that gets their government to say, oh shit, we need to do something about, like, it's somewhat effective over in Europe because they're not just protesting. Desiree Oliver says, yeah, which is crazy because it's literally the First Amendment and we need to permission slip. Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild. So think about it. What they're doing in the UK, what they're doing, what they did in Egypt, that went beyond, right? That went beyond protests. I mean, they were literally fighting law enforcement. Yeah, they were attacking law enforcement. In some countries, they don't pay the bills, like they don't pay energy bills because they feel like they're getting scammed by these energy companies. Like in Canada, there were several towns that got together and said, you know what? These energy costs are ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. So they stopped paying their bills, all of them. And guess what happened? Yeah, they had to bring the rates down, didn't they? See, that's not protesting. That is resistance. Protesting is, can you please stop? Please stop. Can you please stop committing tyranny against me, government? That's protesting. Right? What resistance and rebellion is doing the opposite of what they tell you to do. Right? They want you to protest. They want you to get a permission slip and stand out there with picket signs and just stand there. Hell, they even want you to riot so they can place your ass under arrest. So they can pass more laws, so they can, write more executive actions like this. Because they don't need no more laws for that, because they got the Patriot Act. Because once they designate an organization a terrorist group, or they designate an individual or a group of individuals as terrorists, I mean, they can do what they want at that point, because the Patriot Act gives them that capability. Chandler Thomas says, yeah, they would make us suffer worse than now. We need better pay and less corruption. We need no corruption. We've been given too much power over us to the government. Yes, Rachel Smith. Absolutely. But we give our consent to be governed. We give our children, actually we didn't. Our parents gave the government our consent. We didn't give it up. Just like when my kids were born, your kids were born, we gave them over to the government when we got birth certificates and social security cards. But there's no way you can operate within this society without those things. So you're forced, right, to consent, which is not really consent, is it? How would I achieve well, you can't achieve no corruption. There's no such thing. There will always be those who are corrupt and will try to take advantage of other people. All you got to do is when it rears its ugly head, well, you remove the head, right? You have to make examples of people as soon as possible when they start to abuse their power. But what we have done is we have allowed them to abuse the power and we'll just replace them. Oh, well, then they abuse their power. Well, we just replace them. When in the entire time, there are people above them that you're not even aware of that really have the power. And we're not focused on that. We're focused on replacing people. It really makes no difference. There will never be no corruption. You just have to mitigate and eliminate what corruption you can when you can, right? It's like order out of chaos. Every time you try to create order, chaos inevitably follows. The idea is to bring more balance. It's about more balance, right? There is no balance right now. There is no balances of power. There is no separation of power. There is no checks and balances. All the power is concentrated. That's why we have the problems we have right now. The idea is to balance the power structure, right? And you decentralize the power and disperse it as far and wide as possible and have smaller communities of individuals where you might have some leaders that might have some amount of power, but they have so the leaders, the people they represent, are in small enough numbers that they can get to that leader, right, and ensure that they'll be held more accountable. Those leaders will be held more accountable the smaller the community is, right? Because you have to answer to these. You got to look at these people every day. They have more access to you. So anyway, I hope you guys understand what's going on here. This NSPM 7 is a problem. But, you know, because it looks like they're targeting the left with this NSPM 7, this National Security Presidential Memorandum, well, half the people in the country aren't concerned about it. But most people don't even know about it. Most people don't even know about this memorandum. So it's the NSPM 7. Y'all look it up, share it with folks. Share with anybody you can. Spread the word. This is what the president is doing. Look at the language. Look at what's in there and understand what they're trying to do. All right? So anyway, you guys have a great one. I appreciate you guys for coming through. I gotta get to work. So, you know, it is what it is. But it's a good thing I'm working from home right now. So that's a beautiful thing. Anyway, you guys stay up, man. And listen, don't fall for the okie doke. My whole thing, my agenda is to push the message of freedom, individual sovereignty, voluntarism, right? Individual choice. That is what my agenda is. And yes, I'm trying to get likes and views. I'm trying to get likes and views and get you guys to share it so that more and more people receive this message, so that more and more people can see the evidence that I provide as to why individual sovereignty and freedom is crucial and why it's much more effective than, you know, such centralized power. So much centralized power of a few individuals hold over 350 million people. There's no way it can be balanced, right? We need more balance. So anyway, that's what I'm setting out to do, y'all. You too, beautiful Desiree Oliver and the beautiful Real Eyes. You guys have a wonderful day. Borgiosi, Bobby Lee. You can go back and look at the replay. So, yeah, bless up to you as well, Marlendo, right? Would I prefer smaller government? Well, what I prefer are very small communities that operate in and of themselves self-sufficiently, and, you know, they have whatever system they have where the participants are voluntary. It's a voluntary system. And the only way you can achieve that is if the I like to call it communities that operate and work together under one accord, and everyone participate voluntarily in this system. So whether it's a governmental system, whether it's an egalitarian, whatever you guys want, as long as everyone wants it, then you got it. Desiree Oliver says it's pronounced bourgeoisie. Oh, that's what that is. Okay, the beautiful Desiree Oliver, always looking out for you, boy. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Yes. You make the perfect Wi-Fi wife. Yes. I have declared it. Oh, you're a French speaker? Oh, okay. Okay. I took French when I was in high school. For all 2 years I was in high school. That's another story. Yeah, I got my GED. I spent 2 years in high school, and I was like, man, fuck this school shit. Yeah, I was cutting up. I was a bad boy. Yeah, I was bad. Yeah. That was a whole nother life. Big Head Thought says, you're so not completely on the left, because that's a pretty conservative and libertarian point of view. Why would you consider yourself independent? Absolutely not. No. It's not conservative. I have conservative views, and libertarians don't go far enough with their liberty. Yeah, libertarians don't go far enough. Bourgeoisie, Bobby Lee says, I took French 2 years too. Oh, okay. Yes, I'm for individual freedoms and individual rights and individual sovereignty. Because you got to have that first. That's the priority. The priority is individual freedoms, individual sovereignty. And then, you know, human beings are naturally social creatures. So they naturally come together and congregate with people of like mind and of like culture. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I have no problem with people having their own little small communities where they do what they want and they mind their own goddamn business. You know, and that's fine. But it has to start with individual freedoms, because each individual has to choose which community they want to be a part of. And that should be done freely. Well, yes, people do share some of the same values, but, you know, some values are more important to others than other people. So, again, like I said, people are going to naturally congregate with the people they agree with the most, right? My thing is, well, the smaller the communities are, the more manageable it is, the less tyranny can occur. So that's really what it's about. Anyway, y'all stay frosty. You guys stay, y'all stay sharp, man. Because listen, I would say be careful what you say, but I ain't gonna say that. Because you should be able to say whatever you want without worrying about anything at all. You shouldn't have to worry about people coming after you because you said something they didn't like. So anyway, you guys have a good one. Yes, live your life and make the best of it. That's all you can do. And mind your own goddamn business. That's all I really want. I mind my business, you mind your business. Stop trying to come after me and take my money for this and that and send my money everywhere and tell me what I can and can't do, where I can and can't go, what I can and can't carry, what I can and can't say, and beyond, right? So anyway, y'all stay up. Rachel Smith says, I think each person should be free to do whatever they want, whatever they choose, as long as it causes no harm to any other. That's exactly what I'm saying, Rachel Smith. And that's how we should all live. But obviously certain people can't do that. So then that's why those individuals that do believe that should be able to carry the tools with them and be equipped to defend themselves against those very people. And that's what this is about. Much love, like, share, subscribe. And listen, y'all need to keep marching forward toward freedom. Much love, and thank you for sharing and liking. Peace.